Good morning guys, welcome back to another video. George is not actually feeling too well today, so we're just going to have an easy day. That means I'm not going to be able to have the usual vlog recorded for the day. So I thought I would just take this time to fill today's episode with some Thailand travel tips. Before I came away I did a lot of research about Thailand and looking into different tips that I found on the internet, and they were really helpful for me. So some of you guys may be thinking of coming to Thailand, or you are coming to Thailand and you're a bit unsure about a few things. And I just want to clear a few things up that I found from my personal experience from my time in Thailand. I've been here 2.5 weeks now, so I think I know the place quite well. Now I just want to start by saying Thailand is a great place, but it's very, very different to Western Europe or America, Australia. So expect to pay much, much cheaper for the equivalent product in Thailand than you would do in the UK. Like a can of Coke over here is like 15 baht or something, which is super cheap. I'm not sure exactly what that equates to in the UK, but it's about 50 baht to the pound, so it's very cheap indeed. Now that leads me on to the first tip. As soon as a taxi driver or a tour operator sees a British or a Western tourist, they're just gonna triple price like that, because they know that we'll pay it. If we didn't know any better, we would pay that, because in our eyes that's still cheap. So in everything you do, always haggle the price, because just remember that they've probably doubled or tripled or quadrupled the price just because you're a tourist and they think you'll pay it. So the next tip is don't trust anyone unofficial. Always know where you're going and be careful of who you speak to. If you speak to a happy random stranger who seems very helpful and very willing to help, they're probably after something, whether it's your business or your money. So just be wary of people who seem to be very, very willing to help you. The amount you'll get haggled is ridiculously high in Thailand. Like, you won't believe how many people ask you, do you want a taxi or a Thai massage, or to ask you to come into the shop. Just ignore them or shake your head. Don't start speaking to them, because then it'll just persuade them to start speaking to you more. So just either have your head down, continue walking, or just look at them, shake your head, straight face, continue walking. They'll leave you alone, they won't give you any hassle, and it'll be fine. So the next tip involves taxis, which are very, very abundant in Thailand, and they are super, super cheap. But never ever get in a stopped taxi and the taxi driver asks you, do you want a taxi or where are you going? They're sat on the side of the road without any customers for a reason. So when you want a taxi, stand on the side of the road. When you see a taxi driving past, flag it down. That way you're less likely to get scammed. Now if you're in Bangkok, when you get into the taxi, always say meter before you get in. Otherwise you'll get in the taxi, go to your destination, and the taxi driver will try to charge you 10 or 20 times the price of what it should have been. Therefore if there's a meter running, you know you're not going to get scammed. Now away from Bangkok, taxis very rarely have meters. So when you get in, always arrange the price before you start moving. And just remember that they've probably doubled the price because it's tourists. So always haggle the price for taxi when you get in one. And that moves me on to my next point. When you're in Bangkok, I highly, highly, highly recommend, I've been banging on about it for the past 2 weeks, to use Uber. Uber's so safe and so cheap, and it literally takes like 5 or 10 minutes for an Uber, once you've called an Uber, to come and pick you up. You always know you're going to go to your destination, and you're not going to go to any gem stores that the taxi drivers are receiving commission, or any random shops. You're going to go from point A to point B, and it's super safe. It's good for the peace of mind aspect more than anything. Now if it's your first time coming to Thailand and you're flying into Bangkok or Chiang Mai or any other airport in Thailand, the easiest thing to do, and probably the safest thing, is to arrange a hotel transfer. That way, you know, when you're coming out of the airport, you can see a sign with your name on it, you can go to them, get in a taxi, and they'll take you to the airport. There's a lot of scams with taxis that go on at the airports, where taxi drivers charge you a ridiculously high amount to get you to your hotel. So if you're in Bangkok, Uber, anywhere else, get your hotel to arrange your airport transfer. And if not, just be very careful of how much you're paying. Now one of the main selling points in Thailand is the street food and the street markets, which sell all this like crazy Thai food, and it's so ridiculously cheap. Like you can get a meal for like 60 or 70p. Now one tip I'll give you about market food is always make sure they're cooking meats in front of you, like on a pan or in a wok or something, there and then. You don't want to be eating anything which is like they've cooked it at home and brought it here and they're selling it cold or whatever, especially with meat, because this is basically like a fast track to food poisoning. And when you're in Thailand, a long way from home, the last thing you want to be doing is getting food poisoning and getting ill. Alright, so excursions. Always book, or try to always book your excursions and your days out and your trips before you go to Thailand. Do your research, look what's popular in certain areas. So in Chiang Mai there's a lot of elephant tours, but always try and book them when you're in the UK with a UK agency, because they will always use reputable brands and reputable companies that you know you can trust and that you know are safe. Because the problem is, if you book something when you get out here You don't know if it's a legitimate company, you don't know if the tour's actually happening. These scams do often happen where they take your money off you, say they're going to pick you up from your hotel tomorrow o'clock, 9 AM, and they never show up, and there's no trace of the company whatsoever. It's just one big con to get money out of tourists. So one thing I would say, if you get to Thailand and you see a tour that you want to do, go back to your hotel, research on TripAdvisor. TripAdvisor's an awesome website. Make sure it's got decent reviews and make sure it is actually a company. One example of this was yesterday. You'll notice that me and Georgia came over from Phuket to Krabi. We didn't book a ferry beforehand, so we booked one here in Thailand. They said they were going to pick us up at 7 o'clock, and it was closer to 8 o'clock by the time they picked us up, so they were like an hour late, and that's just from using like a knockoff Thai tour company. So yeah, that's a lesson learned from me. But that brings me nicely onto the next tip, and that is download the app TripAdvisor. It is like your go-to app in Thailand. For example, if you're going somewhere in a taxi, you can put in the name of where you're going, and it will show you the address in their local language. So you can just show them the phone and it's got the address on, and they'll know exactly where you're going. It's been so useful this holiday. It's probably the app I've used most since I've been in Thailand myself. Now the final tip I'm going to give you is when you get to the airport, there's like 3 or 4 companies as you come out of the gates that sell Thailand SIM cards. And I would advise you to get one. There's nothing worse than being a long way from home, somewhere you have no idea where you are, somewhere where the culture's so different. People don't really speak English, and you get into trouble and you've not got any way of contacting anyone. You can't go on the internet to look where to go. So I highly recommend getting a Thai SIM card. It is so cheap. Like, you can pay £2 for a 5-day contract of 5 gigabytes, unlimited internet, unlimited text. So it's so cheap to do. And the service provider that I used whilst I was here was AIS, and I do highly recommend them. I was in Bangkok, Chiang Mai, Phuket, and now Krabi, and all 4 of those places I've had 4G. Now that's including being in like a jungle in the middle of nowhere in Chiang Mai. So yeah, I highly recommend getting a Thai SIM card for the price of it. It's definitely worth doing. Alright guys, and that is just about it for now. Obviously there is a lot more we can delve into, and we can go deeper into things. But yeah, if I was back 2 months ago looking at advice when I'm coming to Thailand, the points that I've listed have probably been the most useful to me and would have been the most helpful to me. So yeah, there's just a few key points from my time in Thailand, my 2.5 weeks. And yeah, I hope you found this useful. If you did, please let me know by leaving a big thumbs up, and I'll catch you in the next one.